I'm Bob Newcomer. Have a long history with trying to get mines permitted in New Mexico. I was just thinking my first efforts were in the late 1980s with a gold mine in Santa Fe County. And that's when I realized that this wasn't going to be easy. I like polished sections. Wonder what the image is. That's a polished ore section from a copper mine, and it really symbolizes the challenges. That's chalcocite, which is a copper rich mineral, which is the ore mineral in the deposit, and it encapsulates mineral pyrite, which is an iron sulfide mineral, and it is waste material. The problem is it has to be managed because it can react with oxygen and water and create acid mine drainage. So that was just an interesting fallout of a pretty picture that I stuck on there. I realized it was symbolic of the challenges. We've addressed much of this through this discussion. This is pretty much like any other effort. I'm giving you somewhat from the mining industry side because they're my customers. If you're going to advance a project, you must involve multiple stakeholders. And this isn't a new thing. In the late 1980s, there was efforts to engage and incorporate input from entities, and that was before the Mining Act, which came out in the early 1990s. And then the other thing from the industry side, this is a very capital intensive business. And so they've got to benefit, but more and more, as DJ laid out in his permitting process, we have to address concerns of local communities and eventually the ecosystem. We got to try to reinstate the ecosystem at the end of mine life. This is a list that came out of a Ernst & Young this year, fairly new, a list of priorities of what the risks were to industry. And it's interesting, the first one is capital. I'm only going to talk and hit the high ones. I'm not going to go through the whole list. But capital has moved up from 8th to number 1. So mines are concerned about the capital to advance mining projects. And I compared this to the previous year's list. And the other interesting things is environmental stewardship, which encompasses things, has fallen to number 2, still way up there, but it's money is becoming a much bigger issue with the demands of moving forward in this environment. The fourth one is new to the list this year, and it's, as Ginger was discussing, the resource and reserve depletion. We are running out of known resources, and this is a global perspective. This list isn't just for New Mexico. So it's risen to number 4 on the list. So it illustrates the importance of finding and developing new resources. And the other one that's new to the list is the other one highlighted in yellow, and that's new projects. There's not many new projects in the queue right now, and we need more. I heard anecdotally that we could use a new copper mine every year for the next 20 years to meet projected copper demand. And it just, at this pace, we're not even close. And innovation is 10th. It's come down a little bit, but still on the list. The last one, you can't see it. It's cut off there. That's workforce, and it dropped from 10th to 11th on the list. This I'm going to just give you a real rough. It's a very complex outline of an arduous and risky journey for miners. very capital intensive. They're basically spending money up front with, they don't realize their return on their investment until they're actually producing metal. So heavy investment in capital, risk assessment all along the way, with the potential that they could stop at any time if the project is deemed infeasible, and permitting and the opportunity to make a mine is evaluated at every step. Starts with exploration and discovery. In New Mexico, most of the resources are what are considered brownfield resources. They're in known mining districts that have been looked at historically, and we have very few greenfield, which is where you find and discover a deposit in an unknown area. I bolded, and I won't, DJ address the importance of the federal nexus in permitting, and you probably hear in the news that can slow things down considerably. There's mines that have been not in New Mexico, but that have been in the process for decades. And then, but the highlighter or bolded items are the ones that require permitting in the process. So we have to obtain permitting to do any drilling, sampling, and analysis. And that's usually a sequential process. So you drill, evaluate, and raise capital again, drill, evaluate. And through that process, you go from a resource to a reserve. And a reserve is a higher level of confidence that you have an ore deposit, something that can be mined. Then it works down through additional evaluations to feasibility of mining and mineral processing. So all this has to work out to where you can demonstrate to your investors that you can actually mine and produce the metal at a profit. And I have listed, if feasible, the detailed mine. Most projects, you start the process of mine permitting earlier, even before the project is deemed feasible. And that process involves developing a detailed mine plan as well as a closure plan, again, as DJ alluded. And then you have to, before you can actually execute and move forward with your permit, you have to put up financial assurance. And that can be at levels of hundreds of millions, depending on the size and scale of your mining operation. That is essentially monies in the form of a bond that the state holds in the event of a forfeiture. The miner was to abandon things and leave them, and the state had to hire a third-party contractor to